The current situation is the Polish farmers and truckers, for that matter, are blocking the Ukrainian border. They are sort of blocking any trucks from coming in, any trucks from coming out from Ukraine and to Ukraine. Grain has been spilled on the ground by the protesters. Very recently, a train has been stopped as well. Grain has been spilled from a train. Some other European farmers apparently are looking to get into this protest. It's a messy situation. Everybody's losing on this situation, which we're gonna talk about very soon, apart from dumbass farmers. And I'm gonna explain why I call them dumbasses very soon. But I guess we should start from the beginning. We should start from talking about how this all started. Because this all started like a long time ago. This all started basically near the time when the invasion itself started of Ukraine. The long story short, we're gonna read an article on it, so I'm just gonna give you a really short version of events. Ukraine was going to transit grain through Poland to different places, okay? But, and that was during the rule of the Law and Justice Party. The Law and Justice Party, for those who are not aware, is a very far right party that basically did all in its power to erode democracy in Poland. And also, they were very incompetent. And because they were very incompetent, they did not prepare the infrastructure for the transit of Ukrainian grain. In fact, before, like many incompetent moves of the Law and Justice Party sort of compounded, before that even happened, the Minister of Agriculture urged the farmers not to sell their grain. He would say, keep your grain, it'll get more expensive. The price of the grain will go up and you'll be able to sell at a much better price later. Keep your grain, keep your grain. And then sort of Ukraine happened, and the Law and Justice Party did not prepare nearly good enough infrastructure to prepare the grain for transit and other goods from Ukraine. Plus, the Law and Justice Party clogged shipyards with coal. So that meant that Poland, instead of a nice transit point, became a bottleneck where grain sort of got stuck and couldn't be shipped further because the infrastructure just wasn't there to accommodate it. And so a lot of the grain stayed in Poland. And so the prices got undermined, and so the farmers started getting pissed. And so sooner or later protests started happening. Does that all make sense so far? And of course, as the situation was escalating, the Law and Justice Party kept saying that there's no problem. That is what basically the Law and Justice Party, they were pretending there is no problem, that the grain is not going to be a problem, until it was very much a problem. That's the intro level of how all of this actually started. There was also a huge scandal along the way that Ukrainian technical grain has been bought. Technical grain is the type of grain that is not fit for consumption. And that technical grain, which is again not fit for consumption, was bought and given to Polish windmills to turn into food products. That was a whole. So it was bought cheap by certain companies. Some speculate companies which were under the lead of the Law and Justice Party, which made them a lot of money, and then sold more expensive as consumable grain to windmills, which produced flour out of it. So as you can see already, there's a lot. There's a lot here. Right? And I'm talking about like the beginnings. The very beginnings of this whole mess. What's been happening. Right? There's been a lot more happening ever since then. I mean, it's Poland. There's been a lot happening. Just gonna say that. Okay, so let's go. Let's look into the things that I've got prepared here. There's an element of the Confederation Party, the Polish fascistic party, sort of gluing itself to the protest on the border and also trying to take advantage of it. And there's the problem of the upcoming local elections. So it's a whole mess. So we're gonna have to tackle this one step by step. Like in that song. Don't worry, we're gonna do it right now. A Polish article. What is technical grain? Why was it shipped into Poland? Who made money on it? And finally, did Polish people really lose on the import of Ukrainian grain? We are explaining in this article the whole grain crisis thing. There is that as well, but oh, you mean the trains? That's not a big problem. The rail, just you just change the wheel thing. So, the European Commission has agreed to the import of Ukrainian grain to the internal European market in June 2022. June 2022, the European Commission agrees to import Ukrainian grain on the internal European market. It was supposed to be another step to support Kyiv in its fight against Russia. The European Union deal with Ukraine. A key signature sort of the deal of the European Union with Ukraine was to suspend fees like import sort of oh, there we go. Duty fees. The suspension of duty fees for agricultural products. So that already is sort of like a thing, right? All the duty fees and other fees on the border would be like sort of suspended because Russia blocked the ports and the Black Sea. So all the shipment went through the countries that bordered with Ukraine because of that blockage. The transport has moved to the countries which bordered with Ukraine: Poland, Slovenia, Hungary, Romania. For many months, nobody protested against that. But the real picture of the situation um, have been sort of hidden by the big prices of food, which have sort of stayed on the world markets since the beginning of the war. Food prices have skyrocketed, sort of, which is true. So, how did the whole crisis begin? The farmers began to protest when it turned out that the grain from Ukraine, uh, which was supposed to be in large part only transit to other places through Poland, stayed in the near border regions, from which it went to the market and made the local prices cheaper, and also it filled local storage units. What was the crisis of the grain? Apart from consumption grain and for animals, there was a third new type of grain, the technical grain. Something that was not present till that time in the world. About, not to mention the sanitary and the border regulations. So apart from the consumption grain and the grain for animals, suddenly emerged this new type of grain, the technical grain. And technical grain is a type of grain that is just not fit for consumption of any kind. It's to be apparently destroyed or used for fuel, for burning as fuel. The problem grew proportionally to the inactivity of the government. So the government basically did nothing about it. And when I say the government, the Polish government, I mean the Law and Justice Party, which just lost the parliamentary election at the end of last year. So the government of Mateusz Morawiecki, who was the prime minister of Poland under the Law and Justice Party, the ministers of Law and Justice Party knew about the problems of the farmers since about September of 2022 and did nothing and did not react. The large-scale protests erupted in April 2023 and surprised both the government and Brussels. And the Minister of Agriculture, Henryk Kowalczyk, had to resign. So basically there were problems boiling on the border. The Law and Justice Party was very incompetent in handling it and ignored the problem. And in fact, the leader of the Law and Justice Party outright said that the grain will never be a problem, that the Law and Justice Party actually has everything under control, that they will move the grain smoothly as transit, even though Poland did not have the infrastructure to make that happen. And the Law and Justice Party did nothing to create an infrastructure that would make it possible to make it happen. So they just tried sweeping the problem under the rug, basically. And it blew up in their faces. What is technical grain? Okay? Technical grain officially does not exist. You could sort of fancy an idea that it was made up for the necessities of those days. It was just the term was sort of created for the use of the days when the crisis was starting. The technical grain was being shipped into Poland as unfit for consumption, and for example, with for use for energetic energy purposes. So you burn it as fuel for energy. It was not checked in any way. Technical grain was not sort of uh, checked for it. It was unfit for consumption, so there were no tests done on it of its quality or anything else, or if there were no pesticides or any other substances that would be bad for health, because it was already just deemed unfit for consumption. So no need for tests in that case, right? There's no need for to test something that is deemed unfit for consumption. So far, so good. And also, we still don't know what happened to the technical grain once it crossed the border. So, from many unofficial talks, we have heard from people from the from this industry, from the grain industry, that it's easy to check. It's easy to make this sort of grain disappear within the market. Did Polish people lose on the import of Ukrainian grain? Yes and no. The price of grain after the eruption of war in Ukraine went up all over the world because the uncertainty effect had come into play, and speculation on the market also added its own thing, right? In June 2022, a price for a ton of grain was basically 2,000 zloty, which is like $500. And a year earlier, it was half that. So it was just 1,000. So the whole grain arrangement under the with the help of Turkey and the establishing back the export of grain from Ukraine has stabilized the grain prices. Thanks to the re-establishing of the export of grain from Ukraine, the grain prices have been stabilized. And this is where the Minister of Agriculture, Henryk Kowalczyk, enters the game, who in June of 2022 started telling the farmers to not sell their grain too early because the prices, for sure, as the Minister of Agriculture of Poland said, will not fall. Which I've already mentioned, right? The Minister of Agriculture of Poland under the Law and Justice Party has told the farmers, just keep your grain, don't sell it, the prices will not fall, for sure. The prices, however, did not listen to the Minister of Agriculture and became lower and lower. And those who did not sell early have started counting their losses. The elections were coming the parliamentary elections. So the government of Morawiecki, to calm down the moods of many farmers, who, by the way, farmers just so happen to be the main voters of Law and Justice. This is something that also has to be said. Farmers are the main voters for the Law and Justice Party in Poland. Like, the Law and Justice is not very popular in the big cities, but is very, very, very popular on the countryside, and many farmers vote for them. So to calm down the moods of the farmers, the Prime Minister of Law and Justice, Morawiecki, has started a program to subsidize, to pay the farmers for storing grain, to buy fuels and fertilizers, and begun an intervention buying of grain for the minimum price of 1,400 zlotys per ton. Brussels has offered an additional 130 million euro for all countries which border with Ukraine. The new Minister of Agriculture, Robert Telus, also promised to publish a list of companies and people which sort of took care of bringing technical grain to Poland. He has not done this to this day. In June of 2023, the Law and Justice Party has sort of enforced a ban on import of Ukrainian grain, which has met with a huge sort of with a huge anger from the European Commission, because the European Commission has done an embargo on the grain, waiting for the situation to stabilize. And when the European Commission has deemed the situation stabilized, it has lifted the embargo. But Poland continued the embargo, which also, that ban that Poland has done on its own has ironically enough also screwed Polish farmers, because the things that Poland banned from being imported from Ukraine were among other things the fertilizers which Polish people need but buy from Ukraine. So that was an unwise move in itself. All right? So to recap, grain was supposed to be going transit through Poland. Law and Justice Party did not create the infrastructure to make that happen. Grain got stuck in Poland. A mess started to happen. Minister of Agriculture also told Polish farmers not to sell grain because the prices will not fall. Okay. And then let's continue still in the past, okay? Let's continue. This is a huge topic, so it's important to know what happened in the past of this, how it relates to the Law and Justice Party, and then how it moved forward. I can understand why people dropped out, certainly, since it's a very technical sort of topic. I can sort of understand why people would bail. Right? Oh, the grain crisis. Jesus. Let's see the English name. The grain crisis. Supreme Audit Office of Poland has not left a single dry strand on the Law and Justice Party. The actions of the Law and Justice government have been ineffective, sloppy, and late. A Minister of Agriculture has sort of caused a chaos on the market. That is what the Supreme Audit Office of Poland has concluded, and their sort of conclusions have been have been published. And this is the end. Like, this is we're at the end of last year, right? We are at the end of last year here. So November 2023. This is where we are with this whole report from the Supreme Audit Office of Poland. The conclusions of the control of the audit, the conclusions of the audit, so are pretty damning for those in charge, for the Law and Justice Party. We read in the Rzeczpospolita newspaper, from the report of the Supreme Audit Office, we learn that the Polish government has not defended the farmers from the effects of uncontrolled import, which in the case of grain has raised in 2022 by 16.8 thousand percent. The Supreme Audit Office is of the opinion that a large contributor to this situation was the then Minister of Agriculture, Henryk Kowalczyk, who told in 2022 to farmers not to sell their grain, telling them that the prices will be kept at high levels and then they will even grow. They won't just not drop, the prices will grow, so they will make a ton of money. So they should keep their grain and then sell it later. The report clearly shows that this judgment was incorrect and have not been supported by any data or analysis. A few companies, however, have managed to make a lot of money out of all of this. As pointed out by the audit office, just 6 companies from the Mazovsha region have shipped 1.2 million tons of grain from Ukraine, and Rzepak, which I have to translate to English. Rzepak. No, no way. No way that's the... No, I refuse. I refuse. I refuse to read the word. No way. Okay, canola. Oh my gosh. And canola. Oh god. What was that? That was... Okay. That was strange. So yeah, canola. Grain and canola, just a few companies. Shh, quiet. Quiet. I'm not gonna use the word. Oh my god. English is so bad. The English is such a weird language. So yes, canola, 1.2 million tons of canola and grain was shipped for 1.63 billion zlotys, which I'm gonna calculate it for you how much that is in dollars. Oh boy. Okay. 1 million 600 and 300,000. So that would be a bit over $400,000. A bit over $400,000. 486.56.32. So what was exactly the whole grain thing? The whole grain what was the whole grain crisis? Last year, the European Union agreed for the import of Ukrainian grain to its market. It was supposed to help the country, which is fighting against an invasion. But at some point, the farmers started protesting, among them Polish ones, because as it turns out, Ukrainian grain, which was supposed to be mainly transited through Poland, have stayed in Polish storage units, from which it went to the market, which meant that the local prices of grain has started drastically falling. And then, already then, the farmers accused the government, the Law and Justice government, of doing nothing, and said that the Minister of Agriculture Kowalczyk and Prime Minister Morawiecki are especially doing nothing, which was true. So that's further context for what was happening. Which to me is sort of just an example of incompetence, okay? A big example of incompetence of I'm going to be honest, this is a fiasco of the European Union and Poland alike. But there is a very interesting common denominator to the grain crisis. Do you want to know what the common denominator to the whole thing is? You might be surprised. You might be very surprised. You've heard the name of the common denominator for this grain crisis many times today. Law and Order Party, Law and Justice Party, the Law and Justice Party. That's right, the Law and Justice Party is like the common denominator, because guess what? There is a person in the European Union who is sort of responsible for the agricultural policy. A commissar of agriculture. Okay? That's a thing that exists. And do you know who the current commissioner of agriculture for the European Union is? Do you know? Is anybody a big fan of agriculture in the European Union happens to know who has this position right now? I don't know, because I'm being serious and formal in this wonderful segment. I'm a professional. That's why. It's because I'm a professional streamer. It gives you serious content, okay? It gives you seriousness. Who? I'm glad you asked. A person called Janusz Wojciechowski, a Polish person who also happens to be, wow, a law and justice guy. Damn. A law and justice guy is the commissioner of the European Union agriculture. Damn. What do you know? Mr. Janusz Wojciechowski, the law and justice guy. Wow. Janusz Czesław Wojciechowski is a Polish politician and was a long-standing member of the European Parliament, elected from the Łódź Voivodeship, representing the Polish People's Party. He used to be in the PSL party before becoming a law and justice guy. He was in the PSL party from 2004 to 2006. The Polish People's Party, PSL Piast from 2006 to 2010. And lately, which is our party of interest, the Law and Justice Party since 2010. And this is where it's gonna be. relevant? That's a good question. We might look into it. In 2016, he left the parliament to become a member of the Court of Auditors. Since 2019, he has been the European Commissioner for Agriculture. And now we're gonna actually ask, because the chat has asked, what is his actually? I mean, I assume he has to. He was accepted for the job. I mean, I know in Poland, a totally incompetent buffoon could be accepted for a job, but I assume the European Commission has to have some sort of. Let's see. What is this education? What is his education? A lawyer. What? A lawyer. A lawyer. Damn. So I guess not really a big agriculture guy. Huh. At least he finished law school. The law degree thing. Okay. Now we go to the thing that he proposed. The thing that he proposed, which also is part of the thing that the farmers are protesting about, that the Law and Justice backed when it was in charge, but the Law and Justice now hates that it's not in power. And that is the Green Order. The Green Order. We're gonna take a look at this. We're gonna read about the Green Order because the Green Order is also one of the things that the protesters are protesting against. The Green Order, which is a European Union policy thing. I'm telling you, the whole protest of the farmers is a horrible mess with many strands, with many elements, which just to go through it all is like this huge maze of confusion and messiness. But that's fine. We're gonna go through it. We're gonna go through it like the brave soldiers that we are. Let's no. Law and Justice, because to remind you, Law and Justice Party has lost the recent parliament election. We have a new government now. So naturally, as all reasonable parties do, what the Law and Justice supported and endorsed before, it now criticizes and hates. So the thing that the Law and Justice basically created, endorsed, treated as its baby. Now Law and Justice hates it, wants it abolished, and says that it's a horrible idea. Right? As any reasonable party would do. Once you're not in power, you hate your own creations. The Law and Justice says about the lefty green order, and the new government reminds that the realization of the policy of Janusz Wojciechowski, that it's the policy of Janusz Wojciechowski. Okay? Janusz Wojciechowski introduced the Green Order, which, as we've just learned a few moments ago, Wojciechowski is a law and justice guy. So, we've come full circle with this. We will explain now what is the Green Order, how it's tied to the agriculture politics, or rather policy, of the European Union, and what the Polish Commissar of Agriculture agreed in Brussels, and the government of Mateusz Morawiecki, law and justice government, when it was still in power. The protest of Polish farmers has been going on from the 9th of February. The people striking are against no custom fees for the import of Ukrainian products, because the custom fees have been lifted for all Ukrainian products because of the war. And the second part, the farmers protest against the bad policy of agriculture and climate policy of the European Union. You have two sort of parallel parallel protests of farmers in different countries in Europe against some of the proposed things in the so-called Green Order. For example, the Romania, French, and Belgium farmers are protesting against the Green Order, or at least against parts of it. The Green Order is a European Union plan which is supposed to transform the European Union into a modern, very resource efficient and very competitive economy. So the Green Order is a plan to transform the European Union into a modern, resource effective and like competitive economy. And it's supposed to lead to climate neutrality of the countries of the EU till the year 2050. So, in other words, there's a lot of anti-global warming thing in this thing. For example, it gives a lot of responsibilities for the farmers. They're supposed to reduce the emission of CO2. Yeah. Yeah, we're supposed to reduce uh, the emission of CO2 that comes from their agricultural work. In Poland, the public discussion concentrated on who's to blame. So, who agreed to the European Green Order and who is responsible for its implementation? So, I'm just going to say right off the bat that this is a problem, okay? Because there's a question that should already right here, a question should pop into everybody's mind. Almost automatically, a question should pop into everybody's mind, and I'm wondering if it's gonna pop into yours. I wonder if the chat has noticed something very interesting, a question that I want to ask. Okay, I'm gonna ask it because it seems nobody here wants to ask the obvious question, the elephant in the room, which is, what does the European Green Order have to do with Ukraine? What does that have to do with Ukraine? What does Ukraine have to suffer because of the European order? Ukraine is not even part of the European Union. It has no say on whether or not the Green Order is implemented or not. It has zero say, actually, on whether or not the Green Deal is implemented or not. Do you see the problem? Do you see the problem here? We know it has to do with the fascist ecosystem that is it all together. I will get to that, don't worry. We will get to that, don't worry. This is a fat segment, a fatty, if you will. We know who we can thank for the Green Order versus the lie is obvious. The most often quoted person is Janusz Wojciechowski, who is the Commissar for the European Union Agriculture. The Union, there you go, the Commissar of the Union of Agriculture, an ex-member of the Parliament and Europarlament, Law and Justice Party. On the 10th of February, Vice Prime Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz said that Wojciechowski, as the commissioner, as the commissar, has united all farmers in Europe and in Poland in protest because the entirety of Europe is protesting against the policy of Janusz Wojciechowski. So, in a way, and I don't mean to jump to mean conclusions here, but in a way, Law and Justice has taken its incompetence from the domestic playground and exported it into the entirety of the EU. Aren't you glad? Aren't you glad that we have a law and justice guy as the commissar for agriculture in the European Union? Aren't you glad that we have the law and justice guy holding the reins. Oh boy. Oh boy. The surname of the Polish Commissar of the European Union has been repeated in further discussions of politicians on the 11th of February in a program called The Breakfast of Rymanowski in the TV station Polsat News. The Vice Minister of Education, Katarzyna Lubnauer, quoted a tweet of Wojciechowski from 2021. What a wild quote, by the way. When it comes to agriculture, I'm not riding the wave of the EU. It is the EU that is riding my wave. The green reform of the joint agriculture policy has been created in Warsaw and has been first called the Agriculture Program of Law and Justice. Oh my god. There you have it. The Agriculture Policy of Law and Justice. Exported to the entirety of the European Union. I'm not riding the wave of the European Union. The European Union is riding the wave of me. Me. It's riding, surfing on the wave of me. Oh my god. I love this tweet. So, to continue the question, to the question, so who do we have to thank for the Green Order? Said Lubnauer and added, we have to say this really clearly, that Mr. Wojciechowski has been responsible for the implementation of the Green Order because he was the Commissar for Agriculture in the European Union. And also, all the things related to the agreement of Poland as a country to the Green Order, which was approved by the Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki of Law and Justice, which agreed to the framework in which we are functioning right now. So, the Law and Justice guys defend each other. So the ex-Minister of Education, Przemysław Czarnek, who used to be the guy in charge of education, who used to want to remove all the literature and sort of replace it with religious literature, who wanted to, of course, attack all the LGBT ideology, of course. So the ex-Minister of Education, Przemysław Czarnek, has said that the words of Lubnauer are false, not true, fake news. Because those are two separate things. The lie is obvious. Mr. Janusz Wojciechowski, the Commissar for Agriculture, is responsible for the eco schematics for agriculture, for ecological agriculture, and for the well-being of animals, and for all that the Polish farmers already are doing, said Czarnek, the ex-minister of education. He persuaded that the Green Order, he persuaded that the real person responsible for the Green Order is Franz Timmermans, the ex-vice sort of chairman of the European Commission, which we're going to just have to introduce the person to all of us. I'm telling you, this is like a layer after layer after layer. We have to go through all of it. We have to go through everything. We have to go through all of the information. Because who's gonna give it to you apart from me? Nobody. No streamer is talking about this. Name me one streamer that is talking about the grain crisis. I dare you. I double dare you. You're only getting this here for now. No, nowhere else. Franz Timmermans. There you go. I'm gonna have to switch to English though. Look how happy he looks. So he's the real culprit. He's the real culprit. You ahead of your peers. I know. But I'm not appreciated enough. To be fair, I don't really have many. How many peers? Okay. How many peers are there for me to talk about when it comes to the topic of the Polish grain crisis? I don't think I have any. I don't actually think I do have any peers when it comes to this topic, but that's neither here nor there. Franciscus Cornelis Gerardus Maria Franz Timmermans is a Dutch politician who most recently served as Executive Vice President of the European Commission for the European Green Deal and European Commissioner for Climate Action. So he's the one responsible for the Green Order. Okay? He is the one, according to the ex-Minister of Education, Czarnek. There you go. It's totally different from the eco schemes for which Janusz Wojciechowski is responsible, he stressed. How do you know who's responsible for what in agriculture in the European Union? You're the ex-Minister of Education. How do you know these things? And also he protested against a different statement from a participant of this discussion, of the grain discussion. Oh, Jesus. Oh, this is a quote from Przemysław Czarnek, the ex Minister of Education. Indeed, climate is very important, and we do want ecological agriculture, not the lefty green order, but ecological agriculture, for which Janusz Wojciechowski was responsible. And the Green Order and Timmermans are a crime for the economy of Europe and Polish agriculture. So basically, the bright boy that our ex-minister of education is, he took what the law and justice guy created and decided to scapegoat some other guy. Because why not? Because why not? Tusk, the current prime minister Donald Tusk, quotes the Commissar Wojciechowski, Zalewska, the outcome of the voting. The same day, in the same day, Donald Tusk, the current prime minister, has spoken on Janusz Wojciechowski and the Green Order. During his meeting with voters in Mrągów, a place in Poland, he mentioned a statement by Janusz Wojciechowski from the year 2021. Commissar Wojciechowski publicly, in the presence of media, said, in reality, this green reform of agriculture is the new green policy of the European Union. It was born in Warsaw, and it was the Law and Justice Party in reality that has proposed the first solutions, and Europe is just copying them. There you have it. Hello, Domingo boy. You're just in time. So there you have it. There you have it. Said the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister said that Janusz Wojciechowski, back then in 2021, is called the Green Order, a huge chance for the Polish farmers. Damn. How inconvenient. How inconvenient that what Law and Justice claims to have birthed, created, suddenly is just not good enough. It's not good anymore now that the Law and Justice is not in charge. How interesting, to say the least. The politicians and activists of the Law and Justice Party, together in unison, are distancing themselves from the Green Order and are sort of persuading the public opinion on social media. On the 15th of January 2020, the European Parliament has voted on the resolution when it comes to the Green Order. The European the Euro Parliament members of Law and Justice were against, wrote on the 12th of February on the X platform. The European Parliament member of Law and Justice, Anna Zalewska. The Green Order was supported by the Euro Parliament members from the Civic Coalition, The Left, Poland 2050, and PSL. And all the Law and Justice members were against it. So let's clear up some names. Let's clear up our language. Okay, let's clear up what we're talking about, the nomenclature. The politicians are using the term the green policy of agriculture and similar and use it interchangeably, very frequently not telling them apart. And that is because the European Green Order and the Joint Policy of Agriculture are separate programs of the European Union, although they are linked. The European Green Order is a proposed thing by the European Commission in 2019 roadmap for the European Union to become neutral when it comes to climate in 2050. So for the countries to produce less CO2. It also applies to different parts of agriculture. It also applies to different sort of branches. Agriculture is just part of it. Besides the European Green Order, are initiatives when it comes to energy, transport, and when it comes to industry. When it comes to industry, the Green Order should not be mistaken with the joint agricultural policy. So a collection of laws accepted by the EU, which is supposed to create a unified policy when it comes to agriculture in all the member states of the European Union. The current framework of the joint policy of agriculture for the years 2023 and 2027 have been approved by the Parliament, the European Parliament, by the end of 2021. The face of the new perspective of the joint policy of agriculture was the Commissar Janusz Wojciechowski. We will explain what is the relationship between the European Green Order and the joint policy of agriculture, which was written by which Janusz Wojciechowski wrote about. What will happen in 2025, 2030. And to which, in Brussels, Mateusz Morawiecki and his government agreed. The ex-government and the ex-prime minister, Mateusz Morawiecki. Okay. The Green Order and agriculture. The European Green Order assumes a change in policy when it comes to the defense of climate. And it has within it many different concepts, projects, among which the base one is a package of laws framed within this conceptions, ready for 55, fit for 55. There's actually a official English name, fit for 55. So fit for 55 means reducing the emission of CO2 by 55% to till 2030 by reforming the European Union trade system and by changing sort of the approval, sort of the agreement to how much CO2 can be emitted for the for these sectors of industry that uses energy and the sector that creates energy. From the point of view of Poland, this is the most difficult element of the Green Order because its main sort of goal is a quick reduction in allowing people to emit CO2. However, the European Green Order is also a package of solution for the agriculture. It is the strategy of biodiversity 2030, which sort of wants for an expansion of protected areas, so the reduction of using pesticides. Another strategy is from the field to the table, so it means using at least 25% of fields for ecological agriculture till the end of 2030. The European Commission is persuading that the new joint policy of agriculture of the European Union will sort of cooperate with, will work in unison with the European Green Order. In May 2020, the European Commission has published an analysis in which it sort of persuaded that that will happen due to joint strategies and mechanisms of monitoring progress and mechanisms that will sort of that will make payments happen, I guess. I'm gonna have to translate this. Conditioning payments, I guess, which is not exactly how I'd phrase it, but the new joint policy of agriculture also assumes that the eco schemes, or in other words, programs which would incentivize farmers to incorporate certain practices which would move forward the joint policy. On the example of these eco schemes, we can see how these things work together. The joint policy of agriculture and the European Green Order. The eco schemes are yearly practices which the farmers could sort of introduce in their own farms. The realization is sort of, it's not mandatory, you can just choose to do it. But a farmer which would implement those eco schemes would receive extra European Union money. The eco schemes for the years 2023-2027 were sort of laid out by the in the joint agriculture policy, but they also sort of realize the goals of the European Green Order. So the goals of the climate and the environment in agriculture. Damn. God damn. That is a. We need all this context. We need it. We need it. And we're not done. We're not done by a long shot. In Poland, it is now possible to uh, realize, to do 5 eco schemes. For example, biological preservation of crop. If a farmer will use means to protect plants which use microorganisms as substances, will get extra money for the realization of the eco scheme, which also affects the realization of the European Green Order. This is why a lot of politicians use the term the green policy of agriculture. And what they mean is the joint policy of agriculture, which sort of not indirectly also includes the European Green Order, even though they're not directly connected. Because the joint agricultural policy and the eco schemes were co-created by Janusz Wojciechowski as the Commissar for the Agriculture. His surname is also within the discussion about the Green Order. He himself also wrote about the Green Order, which, according to him, was a big chance for the Polish farmers. The Commissar Wojciechowski about the Green Order. It is nothing that would be any danger for the interests of the Polish farmers, or rather the Polish farmer. Oh boy. Oh boy. What have I gotten into? So in July 2021, Janusz Wojciechowski took part in the campaign of the Polish Ministry of Agriculture and the Development of the Countryside, which have shown or introduced the European Green Order and the joint policy of agriculture as the great chance for the agriculture in Poland. In a movie created for the purposes of the campaign, the Commissar of Agriculture says, the European Joint Policy of Agriculture and the Green Order are a great chance for agriculture in Poland, especially for the small and sort of middle-sized farms, family-run farms, because they are the basis of agriculture. Hello, I'm Tikas. We will especially support the farmers that will take care of animals. It is not just a European Union, but my personal concern, said Janusz Wojciechowski. Very nice person. Cares for animals. Azak, nice. Very nice. Said also said Wojciechowski. And later he mentions, above other things, about the strategy of from the field to the table, which in its sort of main sort of which technically speaking within the framework of the European Green Order, we together will capitalize on this great chance which is created by the European Great Order, he added. Oh damn, he's here. There's not a slightest reason to worry. I will once again remind of everybody that the farmers are currently protesting about the Green Order. So, there is not a slightest reason to worry that the Green Order will become a burden for the Polish farmers, said our friend, our best friend, Janusz Wojciechowski. On the 3rd of September 2021, during a press briefing, he admitted that the farmers are being a bit hesitant. But he also said that this program, the Green Order, is a grand chance for the farmers. There is nothing in there that could be any danger to the interest of the Polish agriculture. He assured. And also he added, he mentioned his own personal input into the reforms of the European Union. I heard an opinion also from the rector. How do you say rector in English? I have no clue. We're gonna find out in a second. Jesus Christ, this is gonna take the whole stream, isn't it? The Chancellor. I've also heard an opinion from the Chancellor of the University of Agriculture from Krakow. I'm very pleased to hear this opinion that the Green Order is simply perfect. The Agriculture Green Order, as proposed by the Commission, the one that is basically my personal input in the reform of the joint policy of agriculture in this direction for small and middle-sized farms is a very good proposition. And it is a proposition that will strengthen those farms. Janusz Wojciechowski, 2021. So let's notice that the Commissar Wojciechowski was talking about the Green Order, and at the same time, the parliament member Czarnek, ex-Minister of Education, persuades us that Wojciechowski had nothing to do with the lefty Green Order. Ugh. What a mess. Untangling this is like a huge mess. In December of 2021, in the year of the internet discussions on Twitter, Janusz Wojciechowski has left a comment which is now haunting him because the now ruling government is reminding him of the comment. So post from the 16th of December 2021, I assume, with this as its sort of, he wrote this. I was so proud that as a Polish person, that is like a, yeah, I was so proud that as a Pole, that a Polish person stands at the front of the European Union agriculture. I was counting that it would go in the right direction. Right now, I can see. Okay, so this is like the post that is like the question slash comment. I was so proud that a fellow Polish person is at the top of the European Union agriculture. I was counting for it to go in a good direction. For this moment, I can see that you're just riding the wave of proposed things from the EU. Wojciechowski answered, "No, sir. When it comes to agriculture, I'm not riding the wave of the European Union. It is the European Union that is riding my wave." The green reform of the joint policy of agriculture was born in Warsaw, and it was then called the Agriculture Programs of the Law and Justice. The reform of the joint agriculture policy is this program in 100%, and it is very good for Polish farmers. Damn. Oh, that's the more tweets. Top of the food chain. Yes, correct. Oh my god. In January 2022, the Commissar Wojciechowski once again wrote in a post that the Green Order in agriculture is fully compatible with the Agriculture Program of Law and Justice from 2019. Already then, he answered to the voices that he is a sellout to the European Union at the cost of the Polish farmers. He wrote, "Sellout is such an insult." And the Green Order in agriculture is fully compatible with the Agriculture Program of the Law and Justice Party from 2019. And it'll be very good for family farms and in Poland. That is why the members of the European Parliament of the Law and Justice have backed my reform of the joint policy of agriculture. The left wing was against. The lefties were against. And here we have to add a very significant comment. Commissar Wojciechowski has himself joined the Green Order with the joint policy of agriculture. And this is the tweet. "Sellout is such a sellout is such an insult." Oh my god. Oh. Sellout. Okay. Jesus. We're getting to the protests finally. We had to learn about the whole history of the Green Order and the joint policy of agriculture. As the Minister Kowalczyk, how Minister Kowalczyk has changed his mind on the Green Order, the protest of the Agro Union in 2022. Also in January 2022, Henryk Kowalczyk was very enthusiastic about the Green Order. The then vice prime minister, I guess, the Minister of Agriculture and the Development of the Countryside in the government of the unified right wing, so basically Law and Justice, the chief of the resort of agriculture has said that the European Green Order has to be looked at as a chance for the Polish agriculture. We read in a press note from the conference of experts organized on the 21st of January in the Senate, and it was about the Green Order. But already in March of the same year, Kowalczyk was persuading that the Green Order should be suspended. We cannot afford in these times to lower the crop in a conscious way, he argumented in an interview for Polska.pl. Jesus. About limiting the Green Order, especially when it comes to energy. Anna Zalewska, the member of the Europarlament of the Law and Justice, has talked about very often. The Europarlament member has stressed that the farmers were against it. Europeans on many different levels are just against it because it just limits many possibilities. It speaks to what Europeans can use to drive, what they're supposed to eat, what they're supposed to be able to sort of what they're able to grow in their own garden or in their own fields. She commented in 2023 for Gazeta Wrocławska. In February 2022, against the proposition of the European Union, protested the farmers of the Agro Union, and the leader of this organization and the current Vice Minister of Agriculture, Michał Kołodziejczak. He persuaded then that the farmers will defend themselves or will die screaming. Oh wait, what's happening? That the Green Order not so good anymore? We demand to meet with the Prime Minister. He's destroying us. The European Order. High prices are destroying us. The ruling government is not handling this situation. Okay. So I have to ask again. I have to take a pause and ask again. What does this have to do with Ukraine once again? Why does the Ukrainian border have to be blocked over this again? What's the reason again? What is the reason again? Is there any reason? You'll find out in a moment, but for now I have to go to the toilet. Hello, Arkael. I'm tackling the protests at the border. It's so awesome. It's such an awesome topic. It's amazing. Amazing. I'll be right. Maybe it's related to the same way the other countries' farmers protest complain about the free trade policies. Maybe. Hey, I'm ready to continue. Oh my god, I'm ready to. I'm so ready. I'm so ready for this. Even though most of you bailed because I've been doing boring agriculture talk, but you know what? The most loyal of viewers have stayed. It's true. The most loyal of you have stayed with me. The controversy, the controversy, the controversion, the controversy around the European Green Order. Why am I even wearing this? It's not like I'm gonna listen to anything. The vote of 2019. We have to be sure that nobody is left behind. In other words, this transformation will either work for everybody or will be just or will not work at all, said the chairman of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, at the end of 2019. When the Commission has sort of introduced the main framework of the European Green Order, she stressed that it is about the reduction of the emission of the CO2 and creating work for people and new strategies for growth. Hello, Minos. The old model of growth based on fossil fuels and pollution is obsolete, she stressed. The European Green Order already in 2019 created controversy. On the one hand, it was criticized by ecologists. The activist, the ecologic climate activist Greta Thunberg has accused politicians of deliberate slowing down of the decision of implementing changes that would slow down climate change. She spoke of lying to society. On the other hand, there were certain doubts from countries that sort of base their energy systems on coal and other conventional fuels. In the year 2019, Polish Euro deputies of the Civic Platform and PSL, in their joint statement, persuaded that reaching the Green Order will be based on financial support of the countries that will most need it. So on the session, on the plenary session on the, panel session. On the panel session on the 28th of November 2019, the European Parliament has accepted a resolution. It sort of approved a resolution when it came to the Green Order. 430 deputies were for. So the people from PA, so the Civic Platform, PSL, and SLD, and the summer and against that 190, so law and justice. 2 years later, however, which we wrote about above, the Commissar Janusz Wojciechowski was promoting the European order and the joint policy of agriculture. So let's recap. In 2019, the Law and Order Party was voting against the Green Order. But 2 years later, when Janusz Wojciechowski was the Commissar, he promoted it as the law and justice guy. So things change. Things change. You know? Things will never be the same. And once again, he called it the great chance for Polish agriculture. What did Mateusz Morawiecki, the ex-prime minister of Poland, agree to in Brussels? This is such a Poland-heavy stream, but bear with me, because this is about a Polish-Ukrainian crisis. And to know why everything is as it is, you have to know all of the context. Not just Janusz Wojciechowski is being blamed by the current government with the responsibility for the Green Order. The other law and justice politician pointed to in this context is the ex-prime minister Mateusz Morawiecki. Katarzyna Lubnauer in Polsat News TV station said that all the things related to the agreement of Poland as a country to the Green Order were approved during the tenure of the government of Mateusz Morawiecki, the Law and Justice Prime Minister, which agreed to the program as framed and in which we are functioning today. Let's remind that the Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki, as the head of the government, took part in the European Union meetings in Brussels. He does not actually make any formal decisions when it comes to specific documents in the European Union, but he still accepts the general directions in which the institutions of the European Union go. The very idea of the European Green Order was sort of proposed by the European Commission, but it was the European Council, it was the European Council which discussed it which talked about it for the first time in December 12 and 13 of 2019. Wait, no, they don't what? They don't what, Lord Classic? I've been reading so much that when you say no, they don't, it tells me nothing, I'm afraid. It tells me nothing when you tell me no, they don't. So we have to be more specific. Let's continue. Mateusz Morawiecki was then one of the 27 heads of governments who did not agree to reach climate neutrality by 2050. Oh, Germany doesn't want to leave the European Union. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the farmer protest on the Polish-Ukrainian border. That is why in the conclusions of that meeting, it was written that even though the European Council agrees to the goal for the European Union to reach neutrality till 2050, according to the agreements of Paris, but at the same time, one European member state cannot actually promise that it will reach that goal. That country was Poland. Poland said that it will not be able to reach that goal. Those were difficult negotiations, but Poland was freed from the of course Poland was freed from it. Poland was freed from the commitment to become climate neutral till 2050, said Mateusz Morawiecki. The chairman of the European Union, Charles Michel, did not consider this matter closed and said that we will have another meeting and we will think of the situation of this country. And by that country, he meant Poland. He meant Poland, of course. Poland as the country. Jesus Christ, what a long article. It's like reading a book. But it's okay. It's okay, we're tough. Okay? Okay. We don't have to read anymore. The point is, Law and Justice is now siding with the protesters, saying that the Green Order is super bad, saying that it should be fought against, and before it was championing it, together with its Commissar of the European Union Agriculture. That is all you need to know. So now, that is one thing that all of the Polish farmers are protesting about, supposedly. And the second is unregulated flowing of grain from Ukraine. But there's a third aspect, it seems, to the whole protest, which has been becoming more and more apparent. More and more apparent element of the protest has become very apparent. And that is the pro-Russian, frankly fascistic tendencies of the protesters. We're going to check out some interesting things. The protesters have been, among other things, right now blocking trucks from going to Ukraine and blocking trucks from going from Ukraine. And there are a few effects to this. A few effects that are not super obvious on first glance. In fact, our wonderful Polish farmers are hurting the Polish economy. Because, for example, the places that produce drones will no longer order drone parts from Poland. Why? Because the drone part shipment will be blocked. by the farmer protesters. That's why. So it makes no sense for Ukraine to order drone parts from Poland anymore. What an amazing result. But wait, there's more. There's a lot more. Certain interesting slogans have started appearing in the protest of farmers. It's just, I cannot believe it. I'm gonna find a whole thread about it. Let me see. Let's take a look at this, for example. This slogan on a tractor: Putin, clean up Ukraine, clean up Brussels, and clean up our government, along with a Soviet flag. Detained by police. This was so outrageous that they just got arrested. Very interesting slogans. There's more. Don't worry. I'll come to that later. There we go. This one. Wołyń, we will remember. Wołyń, we will remember. Alluding to the Wołyń massacre from World War II. The parliament member Grzegorz Braun and A. Zapalowski, together with activists from the Confederation Party, support the farmers in their protest on the border. The Confederacy Party is a very interesting party because it is a party of 5 slogans. The 5 slogans are as follows. The Confederacy Party does not want the LGBT. It does not want the European Union. It does not want the Jews. It does not want abortion. And it does not want taxes. How interesting then that the farmers who have taken on the cooperation of the Confederacy Party have suddenly taken on slogans such as "We must leave the European Union." How very interesting. 1943, the Ukrainian genocide on the Polish nation. 2023, the economical butchery of Ukrainians on the Polish nation. So in 43, Ukrainians were genociding Polish people. In 2023, the Ukrainians are economically butchering Polish people. End of hospitality, you thankless sons of bitches, say the farmers. Are we sure that this is all about... Are we really sure this is all about grain? There seems to be a little bit more to this. How interesting. Let's watch this video. And yes, the Polish export is also blocked, interestingly enough. Also, a train has been stopped that has been in transit to another country, and the grain has been spilled. Let's watch. Let's watch. Now I can wear this.
Na terenie i porobić koniec wytracenia.
The spilled grain. And of course, because this is a very wonderful protest that is for the good of the people, an additional thing that has happened during this protest is the blocking of an ambulance that was rushing to get a patient into a hospital. How amazing. This is all about the welfare of the farmers and nothing else. Let's see. Let's take a look. A patient in a critical condition? What's that? We need to protest. Who cares? Patients in critical condition not being able to reach the hospital. Who cares? Now let's watch this video. This is interesting. That one's interesting. I wonder what this one will say. Damn, let's watch. Only give and give. Get the fuck out of here, to Ukrainian people. This surely is just about grain, right? Go back to Ukraine. Damn. Surely there's no anti-Ukrainian sentiment here. Surely this is surely just about grain. Wow. This is just a protest for the well-being of... Surely. Go back there to Ukraine. Get. Nobody wants you here. Go back. How interesting, hmm? A grain protest. We don't want you here. Why are you coming here? Wow. That is so interesting and has absolutely everything to do with the unfair, unregulated entry of grain and the European green order. Surely. Yeah. That is what it's all about, isn't it? Wonderful, wonderful. We're just getting started though, aren't we? We're just getting started. We're not done. Not by a long shot, I'm afraid. Is it really just about the farmers? We see more and more situations like this. How can anyone act like this? Just xenophobia and hate. Great PR for Poland, by the way. That is real great PR for Poland and for the farmers in Poland. But I'm sure it's all fine. I'm sure there is simply, there's nothing going on here. I'm sure it's fine. It's fine. It's just about the farmers. It's fine. Oh. And a regular Polish protester that just happens to have by some interesting coincidence, a lot of Russian contacts. Wow. Damn. What a coincidence. Could it be that Russia has an interest in this? No, that couldn't be. No, that can't be it. No, I don't think so. No. It's all about the grain. I swear. It's all about the grain. Please believe me, it's all about the grain and about the green order. And absolutely nothing else. Let's look for more. Polish police are now arresting protesters blockading Ukrainian border when found to be, get ready to be shocked, in possession of Russian flags and putting signs, photos. How interesting! No, that's but the protests are just about. Hold on. But the protests are simply about the grain and nothing else. Okay, we can just stop the bit for now and discuss a few things. So, first of all, the question might be, if this whole thing is so devastating, if this whole thing is so bad, right? Then a question arises. Why doesn't the new Polish government do anything about it? Why doesn't the Polish government just, you know, stop the blockade of the Ukrainian border, which it should do, in my opinion? But why isn't it? Like, there are a few reasons why the Polish government is not doing what it, in my opinion, it absolutely should do. Well, it's actually one main reason, and the reason is voter base. The reason is voter base, and I will explain that right now. In Poland, in just a few short months, there will be we will be having local elections. Okay? The Law and Justice Party is already positioning itself as the defender of the farmers, which said farmers are already very favorable towards voting for law and justice. The Confederation Party, similarly, is positioning itself as the defender of the farmers, even sort of positioning itself as the leaders of the protest. And in my opinion, the reason why the government will not fix this is because the elections are coming and it could hurt their prospects in the local elections that are coming, because people would see them as anti-farmer, anti-Polish interest, etc., etc. That is my opinion on the matter. Why the current new government is basically stifled from doing anything. Because that would just push many people in the hands of Law and Justice and Confederacja. That is basically what would happen during the local elections. And the current coalition really does not want that. So it's a pretty crappy situation all around. However, President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, has actually spoken on this. And this is the current situation in which we are. We're going to read what Volodymyr Zelensky has said about the blockade. And we'll see just in a few days where this will lead. In light of the situation on the Ukrainian-Polish border, I would like to address everyone who remembers the full meaning of the word solidarity, the word that transformed our entire Europe's history for the better. This was the case, and in many ways it is still. A little sort of callback to the solidarity movement in Poland. However, we are now witnessing an excessive and unfair politicization that threatens to dump common achievements. We've already sort of discussed some of them. How basically the political parties are fighting, for example, for votes in the upcoming local elections through the border issue. How basically the farmers themselves are holding Ukraine hostage and holding the security of Ukraine hostage in order to bargain with the European Union about the Green Order, which has nothing to do with Ukraine. Similarly to the Ukrainian grain that the whole world saw flagrantly dumped from trucks and railroad cars on Polish roads, this is the grain that our farmers and peasants cultivate with great difficulty, despite all of the hardship caused by Russia's brutal aggression. And by that, he means that the Ukrainian fields are full of mines, which demining crews don't have the time to clear, so the farmers often have to do it themselves or just get blown up by mines. That also, which I also have to remind you, Ukraine is being constantly bombed. That's also a risk. So I would sort of call to all of the Polish farmers to sort of visit Ukraine and maybe for a few days, for a few weeks, experience what it's like to be a farmer there, what sort of risks, what sort of things one has to go through to collect crop. And maybe then their attitudes would be tempered a bit. Ukraine seeks to resolve the border situation in a joint and fair manner with a completely pragmatic approach. I would like to address Polish society and express Ukraine's gratitude to everyone who distinguishes between political manipulation and critical national security issues. I would also like to address the Polish government, specifically Prime Minister Donald Tusk and his ministers. I have directed our government to arrive at the border between our countries in the near future. By February 24th, Ukraine's Prime Minister, our entire government from logistics to agriculture, and of course, Ukraine's Defense Minister, because the border blockade unfortunately increases the threat to the supply of weapons to our warriors on the front lines. I've already given you an example. Drone parts cannot reach Ukraine because of this blockade. That's just one example that I have given you. I urge you, Donald, Mr. Prime Minister, to come to the border as well. And Andrzej, Mr. President, I urge you to support this dialogue as well. This is about national security. This must not be delayed. The next few days will give us the opportunity to do so. So, as you can see, Zelensky is taking this extremely seriously. He's taking the whole government to the border and saying this has been going on for too long. This is ridiculous. Ukrainian grain is being spilled. Food is being wasted. The grain is something very important to Ukrainians. It is a symbol of life and also death. It reminds the Ukrainians of the scars inflicted by the Holodomor. That is one historical aspect. And also spilling grain like this deprives the people that were supposed to receive this grain of food. This is also one aspect of this whole thing. And ironically enough, this whole thing also hurts Polish export because, as I've mentioned, the border is blocked both ways. The far right parties are using this as an opportunity to win votes for the local election in order to try to grasp back the reins of power within the country, so it just becomes a political game for the far right parties in Poland. For the farmers themselves, the border blockade becomes an opportunity to try to press the European Union when it comes to the Green Order, which again has nothing to do with Ukraine. Ukraine is not part of the European Union, so cannot have any say on the Green Order. I am also ready to come to the border alongside our government. I would also like to address the European Commission now. We must preserve Europe's unity. This is fundamentally in the interest of the European Union. That is why Ukraine has requested that a representative from the European Commission attend this meeting. We have had enough of Moscow's presence in our lands. We have had enough of misunderstandings. We should not humiliate each other. We should not humiliate either Ukrainian or Polish farmers. We need unity. We need solutions between us, Ukraine, and Poland, and at the level of the whole of Europe. Okay? This is basically where we are. Today is the 22nd. The meeting is going to be happening in 2 days. And we'll just have to see where this will lead. If this will lead to a solution that will satisfy the farmers as well as all sides involved. Well, the most important, I'm going to be quite honest, the most important question for me is, will the border finally be unlocked? Okay, will the flow from and to Ukraine finally be restored? Because this is getting extremely, extremely ridiculous. Vital things that Ukraine needs for its war are being blocked. The grain itself, that is a pretty vital product for Ukraine, is being spilt and wasted. We're just going to have to see. We can also watch the clip. It's in Polish.
А також усі партнери України у нашій Європі, передусім в
Wait,
Польщі.
hold on.
Дорогі українці,
Dear Ukrainians, or rather, dear Ukrainian men and women,
українки, а також усі партнери України у нашій Європі,
and our partners in Europe, especially in Poland,
передусім в Польщі.
Polsce. I want to address everybody who
Зараз хочу
remember
звернутися до усіх, хто пам'ятає, що означає повний сенс слова «солідарність».
słowa solidarność. See, it's just saying the whole thing that we read below. So yeah. That's it. Whew. How do we feel? Jesus, it felt so chaotic. So this topic is so huge. This topic is just... I'm going to have to heavily edit this mess and maybe add some info. Because